Hi, I'm Renee Tucci, and today we're going to create a special simplistic design to highlight just a few blooms and an extraordinary container. Okay, so today we're working with this beautiful crystal dish. I really want to highlight the dish and just include some really unique blooms within it and overall create a special simplistic design. I've got this beautiful crystal bowl here, and I really want to highlight it along with some unique blooms that are starting to pop up in my springtime garden and that I've got in my indoor plant selection. So I'm going to create a very simplistic design today. The mechanic I'm going to use for that, instead of traditional floral foam or a tape grid or chicken wire, I'm actually going to use a kenzan or a frog, or it could also be known as a pin holder. And that's because it's got all these great sharp pins on the plate, and you actually impale the stem right onto the pins, and that keeps them right where you put them. Now we do have to consider the matter of the mechanics to hold our frog into our bowl so that when we move it, everything stays right where we put it. Now to get our frog to stay where we want it, I'm going to use this product. It's called Cling, and it is a floral adhesive. It's a sticky gummy material. And so to use this, I just decide the length of which I need, and keep in mind it does stretch, so a little goes a long way. And then I'm just going to rip that part right off the roll. Now I've got a sticky side exposed on one side, and then I've got the paper side on the other. So I'll go ahead and lay the cling right on the frog, peel off the other paper side, and then press it right into my bowl. I'm placing my frog a little bit off center, and you'll see why later. But now that I've got that stuck on there, and it's really on there, I can go ahead and add water, because of course our flowers need water. So you want to make sure there's enough water in here that the pin is submerged completely, so that when you impale the flowers onto the pins, they'll also take up water. And it's going to evaporate just as any water does, so add in some extra and keep an eye on it. Refill it as needed. Now I am going to start with the line of my design, and for that I'm going to use a real taste of spring here. I've got some pussy willow. This is actually called French pussy willow, and it's got a beautiful purple hue to it, sort of a grayish purple hue, and miniature catkins. So it's a really special branch, and I love this pronged branch. I chose it specifically for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and add this into our design. And like I said, figure out where you want it and simply press onto the pin. And it stays right where you press it in. I will most likely, let's go ahead and add a little bit more branch. So I have a second one here, and I want to create a secondary line. So this is a little bit off center and angled from my first line. Next up, I'm going to add just a little bit of greenery. This is called Italian ruscus. It's a very hardy and wonderful green. You can do a lot of different things with it, and it just keeps on going. You can manipulate it and massage it and spray it and glue it and do all kinds of things. So today I'm going to portion off a piece of this very hardy stem, and I'm going to go ahead and remove some of the bottom parts of this piece that I just cut. We'll use them in something else. And I really want to get an arch out of this. So I'm going to massage it just a bit and get a nice, as I said, arch going. So there, hopefully you can see that beautiful line movement we've got. And I'm going to put this in on a bit of an angle behind my willow branch, and then have it envelop the back of my design, or the side, as it were. Okay, so now we've got the ruscus living in and among the willow branches. really starting to create a special look here. Let's just add a few simple blooms and our design will be complete. First off, from my indoor plant collection, I've got this gorgeous Phalaenopsis orchid that is perfectly in bloom. Every bud is open, so I know that my time with this is limited. I've been enjoying it for a few weeks now, but I'd rather cut it and enjoy it as a cut bloom now at this point, knowing that it will bloom again. So I'm going to use this as the height in my design, and again repeat that arching effect that I created with the ruscus, and that's going to go right in here. How beautiful is that? Another little special piece I've got, I have a blooming fuchsia plant here, so I've clipped just two shorter stems off of the plant, and I'm going to add those in lower down. And sometimes with the smaller stems, it takes 2 or 3 times to get them impaled on a pin because there's not as much width to work from. But you can do it. And I'm going to group these two together. Okay, now we've got our fuchsia, our bleeding heart blossoms draping over the front of our bowl. I'm going to create a bit of a center focal area right down here. I've got 3 peach carnations, very traditional flowers here, but we know these will last a really long time, and they'll just enhance the center portion of our design. And we can place these on an angle or straight up and down, however we need to fill in the center of our design. And then I have one last stem I'm going to add into this piece. And that is from my garden outside. We are in early spring and I've got some beautiful Helleborus blooming. And I really want to highlight that. So I'm going to go ahead and press that in right up front here. And it's wanting to give my frog a little bit of a fight, but there we go, we got it in. And now we have our Helleborus in place. At this point, I may just add a little bit more ruscus. So I've got these shorter bits here, and I'm going to add them in down lower just to bring a bit of that greenery down into the base of the design to add some visual weight. And then I want to go ahead and basically cover the pin frog mechanics. So I have some chipped granite here, and I'm just going to lay a layer of the granite chips among the whole bottom of the dish, covering the frog. Okay, we've got all of our special blooms in, and we've created a layer in the bottom of the dish just to anchor everything and to cover our mechanics. One last addition to our design here. As I mentioned, I've got these beautiful Helleborus growing in our garden, and I actually, since I did the design off-center, I have a little bit of exposed area here in the dish, and I'm just going to float the Helleborus right on the water. And they'll last quite some time floating here. You'll want to continue to add water so that it stays buoyant and floating, but you can really create a unique look and sort of special design by adding a floating element to what is otherwise perceived as a more traditional design. As I mentioned, each of these elements are special to me. whether they're from my garden, from my indoor collection, or just a fresh cut flower or stem that I really love. So this simplistic design is going to keep me happy for probably weeks to come. I hope you've learned a tip or technique and that you have a great day.